views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program host and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by TCN TV Network Incorporated. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. The TCN TV Network claims no rights to the said content. TCN TV Network cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. TCN TV Network is a messenger and sharer of information and strives to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this program.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to On Point, your #1 political and current affairs talk show program, broadcasting to you live from here, the studios of TCN Network, here in the beautiful city of Brampton. Coming up on the program, 34 days until the next general election. It's getting exciting. And we'll have with us, joining us, Mr. Garnett Genuis, the Member of Parliament for Sherwood Park in Alberta, will join us to give us an uptake on what is happening in the landscape there in Alberta, as well as what is happening in terms of the Conservative plans, should they form government to lead this country. We will also have with us a candidate from the People's Party of Canada, who will join us to give us their perspective as it relates to the plans that they have to leave this country, but to lead this country, sorry. But before we get there, we have with us once again Mr. Mario Russio, businessman right here in Brampton, downtown Brampton. Mario, it's always good to have you.
How are you, Jermaine?
Doing well. And we have also Mr. Wesley Jackson, attorney at law right here in the city of Brampton. Wesley, it's always good to have you.
Thank you, Jermaine. Good to see you.
You know, the election is in full swing, 34 days to go in this election. You know, all the leaders are out there and we are getting a lot of the promises are being made so far. Wesley, let's kick off with you. Give us your impression, your perspective of, you know, where you see this election campaign so far with 34 days to go. We're the first week into the campaign.
Well, it's funny because my impression is through a very local lens. Mm-hmm. I live in Peel Village and I'm starting to see the lawn signs go up.
Yep.
And it's a bit of a hot topic locally. Absolutely. And I'm just mentally counting the signs and I'm only seeing two colors. I'm seeing blue and red. Okay. I don't know if the NDP candidate has canvassed my neighborhood yet, but certainly they're not winning the sign wars. Mm-hmm. Certainly, it's certainly neck and neck sign war wise locally. So mm-hmm. I'm really, you know, when I read the polling data that shows the Liberals and the Conservatives at sort of a tie, mm-hmm. with everyone kind of begging for third place, that's kind of ringing true in the sign wars. So mm-hmm. that's my take so far.
Mm-hmm. I've actually seen a little bit different, in particular on the west side and south and even center, and even onto the east, is that the NDP candidates are working very hard here in Brampton. Mm-hmm. I was expecting that with some of the polling numbers that are occurring nationally. Mm-hmm. You know, fish where the fish are, a lot of times is a frequent saying. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to be really pushing hard in Brampton to try and, especially with the Jagmeet Singh factor, mm-hmm. Gratan Singh, Sarah Singh, with having 3 MPPs and having a leader that came out of Brampton, I think they're going to be pushing very hard. But to your point, I think the numbers still hold true for the Conservatives and Liberals, Brampton-wide.
Lots are happening. We have had the first leadership debate so far. Mr. Trudeau decided that he would skip the first leadership debate, wasn't there. 3 leaders participated. Let's really have a chance to kind of look at that debate and can give us, what do you make of it, Mario? The Liberal leader, the Prime Minister, decided that, you know, he would be in Alberta to campaign rather than attending that first leadership debate. And how critical was it that, you know, each leader kind of get out there, say what they have to say, you know, allow their positions to be challenged by the other leaders? You know, what do you think of that?
Leaders have a very difficult task of crossing the nation during the campaign. That being said, I think for someone, the leader of our country, to not be part of the first debate, in particular when he was very critical of other leaders not being or running away from debates, mm-hmm. Is something that was said very often. One thing that I guess has come up now more recently mm-hmm. is the PPC party's leader,
Now in the debates.
Now in the debates. And I think, my personal opinion is that that is a good thing. Anytime democracy is not upheld, whenever you have leaders not there, whether you agree with the views or not, I think it's an injustice for the country. So I think it's a good thing to see more leaders and everyone's voice being heard.
What do you think of that, though? Because the Conservative leader is a bit concerned that Maxime Bernier is allowed to come into the leadership debates. At the same time, Jagmeet Singh was also expressed some disappointment that he was allowed to join the leadership debate, while Mr. Trudeau have said he looked forward to holding Maxime to account. Your thoughts on that, Wesley?
Well, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the free elections, it's ugly business. And one of the things I read on Twitter about our local sign wars was that sometimes democracy is ugly and free speech is ugly, and that's part of the process. If the allegations against the PCP party are accurate, that they attract a very negative political voice, a voice of hatred, some have gone so far as to say, I think it's up to the moderators to bring that out and to ask questions about that and call them to account. Having said that, I was excluded from a debate, and I didn't particularly like being excluded, but the holders of the debate had a very valid point. It's our debate, we'll invite who we want to. And they have every right to make that decision. So, who's holding the debate? What position do they hold in the political discourse? A very complicated calculus to it. Having said that, to the point of Trudeau not attending the debates, I think he's got some good media advice in that there's no such thing as bad press. And I think he's riding the fact that there's no such thing as bad press. I think he got as much attention for not going to the debate as he would have gotten going to the debate.
Well, that lends itself to strategically doing what you think is right for politics, but not doing what's right for democracy and for the constituents and people actually hearing your platform. Let's not be naive. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That was a strategy that they took, but I think it's somewhat talking out of both sides of your mouth when you're saying one thing and doing something else, right?
Yeah, it is unfair for him to criticize a candidate for ducking a debate, and then 4 years later ducking a debate. Now, if he skips every debate, I think that will hurt him.
Oh, absolutely.
On an increasing exponential scale.
Right.
To skip one debate, I think there will be some forgiveness attached to that.
This first debate was a lot of focus was on the NDP leader. The NDP has been struggling in many areas. They have been struggling to attract candidates. But he seems to have gone into this first debate, came out of it at the end. His wife was waiting for him, for those who watched it, gave him a big smile, a big hug. He was really happy with his performance in that first debate. How important was it for Jagmeet Singh during that first debate to make a strong impression on the Canadians and to deliver so that people will take him seriously?
I think it did great things for the party. I still, again, this is my own opinion, I think people are still not wholeheartely understanding and agreeing with policies. That being said, he is charismatic. I hold a special part of my heart for anyone that comes from Brampton, so that's something that's great, seeing how well he has done. Again, though, I think as time goes on, some of that luster may fall off, or perhaps they may snowball in the other direction. Again, 34 days, momentum becomes important to all parties, to all leaders, and we'll see how things go. But I think it was important that he took that step forward.
So we don't have much time. We're about to come to the first break, but there seems to be, in terms of the issues affecting going into this debate, there seems to be a large fight over which party is better for our families. We have the Liberals. They talk a lot about that child care benefit. The Conservative have come out and they're saying, we will do a universal tax cut. Wesley, how do you see this fight over, who is better for the Canadian family?
I haven't seen a convincing analysis. There's some suggestion that their policy positions are actually so close to one another that they're just two sides of the same coin. That's why I'm kind of waiting for more in-depth analysis to answer that particular question. I think identity politics is going to play huge in this, and the Conservative Party jumping on Trudeau's failings in that regard. Calling himself a modern feminist, but not necessarily always acting in that regard. That may backfire But we'll that whole strategy, we'll see how that plays out.
All right, stay with us. When we come back from the break, Mr. Garnett Genuis, Member of Parliament for Sherwood Park in Alberta, will join us, a Conservative Member of Parliament. He will give us a bit of a Conservative perspective as to why you should consider voting Conservative in the upcoming election. Stay tuned, stay with us.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hi, my name is Rosa. I'm here because we're volunteers for the Federal Conservative Party of Canada for the MP candidate, Marla Topwell. So we really like him. He's very carefree as well. He's doing things that he doesn't have to, like the way he treats us. It's kind of like we're related to him. So I always feel at home here with all my friends.
With so many newspapers within the community, it's sometimes hard to tell what separates us from the rest. Most of the time, they all brag about the same thing. You know, the large circulations, tons of online views, and it can go on and on. But what really separates the Toronto Caribbean newspaper apart from everybody else? Well, it's simple. Our service. No, seriously. Hi, I'm Grant Browning, founder and CEO of the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. I have over 20 years of branding and marketing experience, and I've worked with countless companies and corporations to do one thing, and that is to raise their profits with their brand. With over 40 years of combined experience in branding and marketing, our amazing staff is fully prepared to sit down and figure out exactly what you need to stand out from your competitors.
The reason why you don't see that anymore is because
the ad is too powerful, bring too much people.
So what are you waiting for? Give us a call today. We'll be happy to help.
Welcome back to On Point, your political and current affairs talk show program with 34 days to go until the next general election. Joining us just now, we will have a conversation with Mr. Garnett Genuis, who is the Member of Parliament for Sherwood Park, Saskatchewan in Alberta, and also the opposition deputy spokesperson for immigration. Garnett, thanks. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you today.
Okay. You know, we are 34 days away from the general election. You are out there in Alberta. Give us from, the Conservative perspective, what are the reasons that you should be returned to government after being away for 4 years?
Well, I think that you'll see from the argument we're making in this election, our focus is on making life more affordable for families. Substantive proposals in terms of how to do that. Our universal tax cut, which would lower the lowest marginal tax rate, bring back the arts and fitness tax credits for transit users, getting rid of the carbon tax. We are committed to making life more affordable for Canadians, and that's in contrast to what we've seen over the last 4 years, which is an increase in the cost of living driven by tax increases imposed by the Liberal government. There's many other issues that we can talk about, how the failures of the government abroad are costing Canadians on trade, how the Liberals have failed to effectively manage our immigration system. Also, I know many people are concerned about attacks on our fundamental freedom. The Liberals haven't stood up for freedom of speech. Things like their summer jobs values test, other things that the government has done that are having a negative impact in terms of protection of religious freedom and fundamental freedom. So there's many issues out there I think that are important for us to advance. The core conversation we're having in this election is that Conservatives are committed to making life more affordable for families and helping people get ahead.
Let's talk about that a little. Making life more affordable for families. If I could get some more volume on your mic as well. You know, the child fitness tax credit was in under the previous Conservative government, was taken out, for example, when the Liberals came to power. How would that make life more affordable? Because, you know, between the Canada child tax benefit, how do we contrast that with what you are proposing to make life more affordable for the ordinary Canadians?
Yeah, and it's important to look at these things in total, right? So the Liberals, they said that, oh, look, we're reducing taxes for the middle class. But in fact, independent analyses showed that the taxes paid by the middle class went up under the Liberals. They got rid of tax credits. They replaced the child care benefit program that existed under Conservatives. They renamed it. They made a few changes, but at the same time as kind of rebranding the child benefit program, they eliminated tax credits. They eliminated income splitting, and they brought in the carbon tax with the GST on top of that. So independent analysis show that add all these things together, the middle class are paying more under the Liberals. Conservatives are committed to making significant tax reductions, as well as bringing back on top of that those tax credits. So it's very clear that that our plan offers far more in terms of making life more affordable, and we're committed to doing that within the framework of a balanced budget, so that when we make those spending commitments, we know that those will last.
Let's talk about some more areas where you differ from the governing Liberals, Garnett. We look at the issue you mentioned, the carbon tax issue. A lot of people have indicated that, you know, for sure climate change is something that should be taken seriously. As you speak to young people, the climate issue is on the radar of young people. We are very concerned about protecting the planet. How would your plan better protect the planet, better protect us from the effects of climate change than the carbon tax that the Liberals is using to kind of get our emissions down?
Well, that's a very important question, because Conservatives do not believe that the carbon tax is an effective response to the environmental challenges we face. We believe in climate change. We believe that it requires a serious and focused response from government. And we believe that our plan that focuses on that, rather than using this issue as an excuse to raise taxes, is the better plan. So what's our proposal? And people can read more about it if they go to arealplan.ca. Our focus is on providing tax credits to make it easier for people to make behavioral adjustments without imposing those taxes on them. So one of the key measures for individuals, for example, is a green homes tax credit, a very generous tax credit for people who make investments in home renovations that improve the environmental performance of their home. So where the Liberals want to punish people by increasing their taxes, we want to offer a tax credit to make it easier for people to make those adaptations that are going to be cost effective for them in the long run, but make it easier for them to make those capital investments up front. Importantly as well, our plan includes requiring heavy emitters to take their responsibilities while giving them incentives as well. The Liberal plan was a carbon tax for most of the people, but then it gave a break for Canada's largest carbon emitters. So very strange, I think, to a lot of people that, why am I needing to pay more while the big emitters are being let off the hook? And it's because at the end of the day, the Liberal plan was about generating revenue, it was about raising taxes. Our plan is about incentives and encouraging the development of new technology. So we have some very focused incentives for industry that will make Canada a green technology hub, will encourage investment to be made in green technology here, technology which can then be exported. So I think our plan is going to be much more effective at allowing us to reach our Paris targets, especially in the global context, because the development of new technology here, which can be used around the world, will have a much greater impact in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions than just having the punitive approach here in Canada.
Let me ask a bit about some of the politics of it all. In the last election, for example, in Atlantic Canada, the Conservative was almost wiped out in that area. You did strongly out in Alberta. Give us a sense, since we are in Ontario, we're in Brampton, Ontario, give us a sense as to what the issues are out in Western Canada, out in Alberta, issues to do with pipelines and how our voters responding at the doors out there.
Yes. Well, certainly there are slightly different conversations happening in different parts of the country, but we're all connected as well. Here in Alberta, in my constituency, there's a big emphasis on the energy sector, the jobs and opportunity that come from the energy sector. But it's important for your viewers to think about jobs and opportunity in Ontario that are linked to that as well. There's a lot of people who work in, I know, a pallet factory that is just outside of Toronto that makes pallets that are used in the energy sector. There are many people from other parts of the country who will come and work in the energy sector, but also the construction of component parts. And so there's a lot of jobs linked to our energy economy that aren't just in one region of the country. So I think, of course, there's an understanding that Conservatives have a much greater appreciation for the importance of the energy economy. And we're going to work to actually get pipelines built, which is why Andrew Scheer has promised to put in place a national energy corridor, allowing us to move our resources from east to west. But that energy corridor, again, is not just important for the West. It's an opportunity for Quebec hydroelectricity to move and be sold to other parts of the country. It's an opportunity to bring Alberta's energy resources to Atlantic Canada to feed the upgrading and value-added processing that happens in New Brunswick. So there's opportunities all across the country in the energy economy. Alberta is kind of the epicenter, but I think the failure of other parties to get on board and recognize the value of using our natural resources, the way in which we all can benefit together, is going to cost the Liberals not only in Alberta but across the country.
Okay. All right, as we're about to wrap up down to the last minutes here, just what would you, as you talk to voters out there, just kind of make a bit, your last push as to why, as a Conservative Party, again, do you think that voters should give you the next 4 years?
Well, the Liberals had 4 years. They made lofty promises and they failed to deliver. One area we haven't talked about is immigration. The Liberals have not been effectively managing our immigration system, and as Conservatives, we are a pro-immigration party. We believe that we can make the system work better and still have very high and effective levels of immigration. We had a track record of 10 years of putting money back in people's pockets, of running an effective, efficient immigration system, and of Canada being well represented on the world stage. And I think a lot of people, they are disappointed by the Liberal record, and they want a prudent, responsible government that will help them get ahead and will restore the effectiveness of our public services.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on. We are out of time. We wish you all the best out there in Sherwood Park for your re-election. And we'll be in touch again as we come down to October 21st. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much. Great to talk to you today.
All right, stay with us. When we come back from the break, the People's Party of Canada join us to give us their perspective as to why they should form government to lead us in this 43rd parliamentary session. This is On Point. Stay with us.
My name is Trish Curling, and I am an online coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher, and your new host of Shaping Life, which is all about understanding that we have the ability and the control to take charge of our health and wellness. But we can't do it alone, and I can't wait to sit down with the best in the industry. Please tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. live here on the TCN Network.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back to On Point, your number one political and current affairs talk show program, broadcasting live on the TCN network from here in the beautiful city of Brampton. As we are joined this evening by the People's Party of Canada, candidate for Brampton Centre, right here in the beautiful city of Brampton, Mr. Baljit Bawa. Baljit, welcome to On Point.
Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you for having me here.
All right, good to have you on the program. You know, you are running for the People's Party of Canada in the Brampton, right here in the city of Brampton. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Just kind of introduce yourself to our viewers. A little bit about your background before you enter politics. A little bit about you.
Very great. I'm an IT professional. I've just recently started my immigration consultancy also about last 2 years, but 10 years of experience in that. So IT as a geek, you can call me.
Okay.
Right, as you can see me, like, you know, the way I was there on the ground and you just called me. I said, you know what, nope, let's go and talk to my residents here.
Yes.
That's my profession and that has paid me. I've worked with the last 20 years here in Canada. I came to Brampton and that's where I settled. My kids have studied here. I've got 2 beautiful kids, a daughter and a son.
Okay.
They have studied at Brampton Secondary School. Now my daughter is married and my son is also planning to get. So
okay.
You know what? That's the family. As I said, the 20 years here in Brampton Centre itself, I've been working as an IT professional with different, I would say, I wouldn't name them, but all the top 500.
Fortune 500.
Fortune
okay.
500s, with all the way from the banks to retailers like Loblaw, Canadian Tire, with the TELUS, Bank of Montreal, TD Bank, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So being in that. And when you ask for the politics, yes, it's about last 10 years when I got my first actually award as a top 25 Canadian Immigrant Award, which is a very prestigious award here in Canada.
Yes, it is.
It was all for my volunteer and community work that I had been doing here in the community.
Okay.
Hence, that was a time actually where a little bit of engagement into the politics with my supporters and the people around me. They said that, you know what, why don't you do some representation? This is a place where politics is very clean. People, they run it very nicely. There's, there are policies. There are political parties, and I ended up joining one of the leading party at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit now about the focus on the election. We have 34 days to go. You know, your vision, particularly for Brampton Centre, what are some of the things that you want to see accomplished here in the city of Brampton if you become a member of parliament in this area?
That's a great question, and that was the reason why I came out into the politics.
Okay.
And as we know, like, you know, we had liberals and we had conservatives. And mainly Brampton had been having these two parties or 2 representatives. So far what we have seen in last 10 years or whatever the time, Brampton has been neglected mainly by any party. We haven't seen any development or anything coming down from federal level or even from the provincial level, whatever it is. So I'm talking mainly from the federal perspective. When we are talking the funding, whether it is for healthcare, which you know, we know it, one of the party leader ended up just announcing that he's going to give Brampton a hospital. That's not even a federal issue. So I'm not sure how the politics is being.
What would your party do on healthcare for Canadians?
So healthcare, what our party stands for is we want to bring back the private and the public, cohesion together. That it should be a partnership. Healthcare is something which the GST, that is what we collected at the federal level, that should be given back to the provinces, and the provinces should be making the right decision of using that money back into the healthcare system. So that's just in a nutshell. So we have a very strong plan all the way from immigration to carbon tax or climate change to our balancing the budget, or whether it is the federal taxes and lowering the income tax and so on.
Immigration, one of the big issues that came out with the People's Party of Canada recently, that mass billboard that caused a lot of outrage, where they say, you know, reduce mass immigration. You know, where does your party stand on the issue of immigration?
That's actually, we are as People's Party of Canada and Maxime Bernier, he is very strong on bringing the immigration levels back to 150,000, which is, and that doesn't mean that we are reducing the immigration. It is bringing the immigration back to 150,000 with 50% of immigrants as economic immigrants. And what does that mean? Because right now we are saying is, let's increase from 250 to 370,000, matching so 1% of the 37 million population of Canada. Out of that, there are only 24% of the immigrants which are economic immigrants, which does not actually resonate with the Canadian society or integrating with them. And they are called economic immigrants, but it's only 26%. Our party is saying, let's limit that to 150, but increase the number of economic immigrants to 50%. Based on what is the requirements here, what skills do we require, what employers they require, what type of jobs are created over here. And they can vary. You can start from a carpenter to a cook to a doctor, an engineer, a driver, and so on. So based on the requirement what Canada needs it, the immigration should be managed and modified accordingly.
Okay. Another issue, you know, here in the city of Brampton, you know, in places like Toronto as well, out west in places like Calgary, you know, they are seeing increase in violence, gun violence and stuff like that. You know, how would your party deal with the issue of violence, gun violence, and as well as keeping Canadians safe?
Keeping the Canadians safe, that's the first and foremost, task of any government. Doesn't matter whether it starts from municipal, it starts from small communities to provincial as well as to the federal level. Now, when it comes down to the law and especially with the gun violence and so on, what is happening, and it has been increasing, and we always thought that it is in the GTA, and now it is spilling over to Brampton also. We saw just a bystander being, a young
17 years old.
17-year-old. Very sad moment for the family and as well as the neighborhood. And yesterday again, there's a drive-by shooting here in Brampton on a highway. Now these things are there, and it's the banning the guns or doing that is not the way how you can stop this violence.
How would you deal with it?
It's more of making the community aware, giving them opportunities to work, integrating them to Canadian society, to Canadian culture, giving them the opportunities. You know what? If you have enough jobs, if you have the society working cohesively and accepting each other, the Canadian values, or integrating with the society, that actually will reduce the violence or intolerance among each other. That's what is happening.
I want to get you on some other issues. You mentioned earlier climate change. Max Bernier, your party leader, doesn't seem to think that much needs to be done to address climate change. I want to leave it to the private sector to a large extent. Where do you stand? Where does your party stand on the issue of climate change? Many young people will be voting in this election. A number of young people are concerned about climate issues. Where do your party stand on that issue?
That's a great question, and I know all young people are really worried about the climate, and same like me and my kids also, and they always say, what can we do? The main part over here, what liberals or conservatives are saying, and same way NDP and the Green Party, is let's put carbon tax. Carbon tax, taxing someone does not stop any type of behavior. We have seen this happen in BC, in British Columbia, where they ended up putting carbon tax, and they raised the tax, but it didn't reduce the carbon emission. It in fact raised it. They said, okay, fine, here you go, another $2 and another $10, another $50. That's not there. We got to provide awareness and education, and especially with our party, what we are saying, carbon tax is not the solution. We have the innovative technologies here that Canadians they own that. We can sell, we can give those technologies, we can spread that to the rest of the world, that how Canada is fighting, how Canada has been at the lowest level of carbon footprint than rest of the world. So using our technologies, selling those technologies to the outside countries, giving that education awareness to the other places which are actually the culprits of making the climate change even worse, like China, even America itself, bringing them on board and making them understand that, guys, we need to work together. We have to have a common ground. Taxes don't solve problems.
Okay. As a last question, because we're out of time here. Your party has said they'll balance the books within 2 years. That's a very ambitious plan. a very, many people will wonder, okay, what benefits would we lose? What programs would we lose? Is it realistic to balance that budget within 2 years? How would you guys do that? I mean, would people lose their services?
Everyone asks that is that really possible? It's too good to hear and too good to be true, right? Believe it. But yes, it is definitely possible. If you see it, Canada has been spending on so many things that can be stopped. All we have to do is just carefully take care of all expenses that are happening at the government level. It's not just for giving $60 million to a country which is for fighting a climate change and go build your roads, whereas that country, we know it's a dictatorship. Do you think that 60 million is going to be used for the climate change, building the infrastructure for that? Another one, giving 600 millions to the media like CBC. That's the first thing we're going to cut it. Now, if we start looking at those things, the deficit that we have we pay $4 billion as an interest on that. If we bring that $4 billion back into Canada instead of paying to the outside countries from where we have borrowed the money, our banks are very strong. $4 billion. Counting all these numbers, bring back down to Canada. Canada can easily fight and bring or balance the budget in next 2 years.
Okay.
We have the whole plan. It's there on our website.
Okay, we're out of time, but just finally, just tell the people how can they get in touch with you if they want to support you, they want some more information. Are you on Facebook? Are you on the websites? Tell the people how they can get in touch with you.
And I would just say it this way: it's your vote, your support, your Brampton, your voice. I'm Baljit Bawa. My office is at 25 Kings Cross Road in Brampton. It's very next to Bramley City Centre. My phone number is 416-728-4142. You can reach me anytime. I carry my phone with me. I'm on the road. My office is always open. Come volunteer with us. Be supportive, and we are going to make Brampton a better place to live.
All right, Baljit, thank you so much for coming on. We wish you best wishes in the upcoming election. 34 days to go. We go to a break. Stay with us. It is On Point.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
My name is Rosa. I'm here because we're volunteers for the Federal Conservative Party of Canada for the MP candidate, Russio. So we really like him. He's very carefree as well. He's doing things that he doesn't have to, like the way he treats us. It's kind of like we're related to him. So I always feel at home here with all my friends.
My name is Trish Curling, and I am an online coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher, and your new host of Shaping Life, which is all about understanding that we have the ability and the control to take charge of our health and wellness. But we can't do it alone, and I can't wait to sit down with the best in the industry. Please tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. live here on the TCN Network.
Welcome back to On Point, your political and current affairs talk show program. So we have just heard from Mr. Garnett Genuis, who is the Member of Parliament out there in Sherwood Park, Alberta, kind of giving us a bit of the landscape as to some of the wider issues in this election. You know, talking about the needs to, for example, to invest in our pipelines. You know, that's another major difference between the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP. The NDP, Wellesley doesn't seem to have an appetite. So, you know, they are talking about moving away from fracking and from fossil fuels. And so we're not exactly sure what they would do with our energy industry. How will that play out to voters?
I mean, it remains to be seen, quite frankly. I think there is a divide in the age demographics, where the younger demographics tend to believe we should be investing in emerging technologies for our energy grid, renewables, solar, wind, hydro. As you age up, so to speak, I think there is more of a belief that those are not reliable, certainly untested. The economic modeling hasn't been done, and the uncertainty of it is certainly, you know, do you gamble a national economy on it? And I think there's some wisdom in approaching it cautiously. So, you know, not taking that on as I think strategically they've made the right decision to let that unfold during their mandate, as opposed to come out with a solid rock, you know, written in stone policy piece on it.
I think having the opportunity, I mean, obviously I've said this before on the show, issues that are very important to Albertans are not always as top of mind to Ontario, Quebec, and so forth. So that's something that has to be taken in mind. But one thing that I remember speaking to one of the MPs in Alberta is that people, or a lot of people anti-pipeline, don't take into account is that if they want to get rid of pipelines, then go to your gas meter, shut it off, and don't use your gas meter. We have pipelines to every house in Brampton / Mississauga. So these are things that, you know, it never really dawned on me is that there is pipelines that occur. Now, obviously not to the same magnitude, but it's something that's interesting. And you know, until you have those issues brought up to you on a daily basis, it doesn't open your eyes sometimes.
One of the things that Garnett said as we talked to him about this issue is that even in Ontario, there are companies who are manufacturing the pallets that are used out in Alberta. So talk about the connectivity of the economies and how important that is. You know, another issue that, you know, the PPP talked about, and we just asked him a while ago as well, is that their commitment to balancing the budget within 2 years. And I tried to press him there to ask him, you know, that's a very ambitious plan. You know, how would you accomplish that? What services would Canadian lose? You know, how realistic it is for our parties to be saying, you know, with our budget as it is, in 2 years we will balance the books. The Conservative have kind of said, you know, they'll try to balance it within their mandate. The Liberals, you know, had promised to balance it in 2019, but no, don't seem to have as a main concern. You know, where is that with voters?
I think I can't resist, but I think the balance may balance itself. You know, it's one of those scenarios that if you don't have real fiscal policies in place, you're just speaking to the sound bites that people want to hear. What has to be really considered is what mechanisms, what policies are you going to use to balance those books? That's where I think, respectfully, a lot of other parties come up a little bit short. You know, some of the by nature or by, let's talk historically, the Conservatives tend to be more balanced budget or fiscally responsible. That's going to be the decision of the voters to find out, and that's where I implore people to research, find out what those policies are, and look into your candidates and ask those questions, as opposed to just listening to what media puts out there, because those sound bites sometimes sound good, but they're not really achievable.
Okay.
Well, I'll agree with you, Mario. That's certainly the drum that historically has been beat by the Conservative parties, whether or not they can fulfill that promise. And people like to pick on the Harper government, and the response is always, well, he couldn't control the global economic crisis. So, not a fair test. We'll leave up to the historians. At the end of the day, any party that can promise they'll fix a budget deficit the size of the federal government deficit in 2 years has got a lot of explaining to do. The magnitude of the economy is beyond a 2-year course correction. You know, I can say I'm going to spend this much for border agents at the border. Well, if we increase trade to the United States after the Trump trade wars are over, and there's more truck traffic going through, well, that's a variable cost.
Absolutely.
So that alone, and I remember watching, you know, a couple elections ago when the Green Party first sort of hit the ground running federally. Someone asked them a very simple question, like, what are you going to do about the truck flow at the Windsor border? And they just didn't have an answer because it didn't fit within the wheelhouse of environmentalism.
Right.
Now, the party has evolved a lot since that election, but has the People's Party of Canada put a lot of thought into managing the flow of trucks at the Windsor border? So, yeah, I mean, you can promise it. But I think historically, at every level of government, that's the first promise that gets broken.
Let's jump on that issue here, the issue of guns. You know, it's one that it's not significantly dividing the parties. I mean, both parties, all parties seem to be struggling with this issue. The Liberals, for example, they studied a handgun ban, but they haven't committed to it. The Conservatives, you know, is not considering a handgun ban at all. You know, the party has indicated, however, if you are convicted of a violent crime, then you will be banned for life for having a handgun. The NDP has been not committed to a handgun ban, but they are saying, no, let cities decide, leave it to the cities to decide what they do in there. The PPC has said, you know, leave guns alone, you know, don't give any more restrictions. You know, right here in the city of Brampton, in Toronto, you know, we had a violent weekend, shut down our highway for almost an entire day. You know, what are voters expecting when it comes to safety of Canadians and the issue of guns?
I think too many people take advantage of these issues. They're very serious issues, and they use it for political purposes and political advancement. Everyone's going to say, there's not anyone that's going to say that we don't want safe streets. We were talking about it at municipal elections. We were talking about it at provincial elections, and now we're talking about it at federal elections. Firstly, let's try and understand where everybody can come together and what their roles are. That's number one. Our municipal and provincial governments can do X. Our provincial can do Y, and so forth. For me, federally, at this election, the most important thing that should be discussed is changing legislation. Changing legislation that will actually prevent criminals whom are found of continually doing these serious crimes. There's got to be provisions that we take that into account. We have a lawyer on panel, and I don't know what obviously your expertise is, but that's for me very important, is looking at what federally can be done. There's no point of looking at federal issues and they're not. At this point in time, this election is about federal issues, not about how many policemen are on the streets, because those are provincial and regional issues. Wes?
It's been a long time since I've done criminal law, like a very long time. But I used to be in bail courts, applying for bail, arranging bail for people, and the Crown attorneys, the police, they know who the rounders are. They know who is coming back next week. And the reality, unfortunately, is that there's a mathematical formula, and it changes over time. But at the time, it's 2 for 1. Every day you spend in jail before trial is worth 2 towards your sentence. So one of my clients was denied bail, and we said, well, do we bring an appeal? No, because by the time that your trial rolls around, you will get out the next day whether you're convicted or not. So why bother? Just wait out your time. And we knew in that case he was going to be convicted, so we just put off his plea for 2 weeks, and out he walked, and I'm sure he reoffended days after he got back out. His criminal record was quite extensive. How do you stop it? I think if anyone knew the answer, we'd have deployed the answer. That's the bottom line. So it's a problem that we just have to chip away at. It's a 1,000-piece puzzle, and we only have 300 of the pieces, and that's something where what I want to hear from the candidate, to get to my point, I want to hear about how they're going to cooperate with the province and cooperate with the city to implement the solutions that we do know work.
Okay. Right, as we're about to wrap up, your final point, Mario, your final point, Wesley, talk to voters, what to look for as they get all these promises, because the promises are coming out almost on a daily basis. They call it platform ideas, they call it promises. How should voters make sense of all of this as they decide who to vote for?
I think understand the parties that are out there, understand their policies and their platforms, but get to know the people whom are running in your ridings. Get to know the actual people who potentially will be your MPs and how they are going to listen to you and how they're going to fight for you. That's important. That's something that I think a lot of people don't understand the dynamics between party policies and also someone who's an individual that will or should represent you.
Wesley?
We learned this rule very, very early when we were children, the 5 W's. Ask, who, why, what, how, when. You ask those 5 questions of anyone knocking on your door, you will learn what you need to know, whether you're voting for that person or not. Don't just take it at face value.
Yep.
Who are you? Where are you from? What are your promises? How are you going to implement them? When are you going to implement them? Just ask. Keep asking questions till you're satisfied you know the answers.
34 days until we go to the polls to decide who next will be our Prime Minister. Will we continue with the same Liberal government? Will there be a change? What will happen? Stay with us on Point. We're back with you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. to bring you more of the issues to help you make your decisions in election 43. Thank you for watching.